Hello everyone, welcome back to NVIDIA channel. I am Dr. Atya Arzu. Today our topic is an introduction to toxicology. Before going to this, we have to know that what is toxicology. You can see here toxicology comes from two words. One is your toxins, another one is your logos. Toxin means poison and logos means study. So study about poison is known as toxicology. Study about poison. So here also I have written toxicology comes from two words. Toxin means poison and locus means study. So toxicology study about poison, study of poison. Toxicology is a field of science that helps us understand the harmful effect of chemicals, substances or situations can have on people, animal and the environment. And you can see here the father of toxicology, Matthew or Phila, is the father of toxicology, but father of modern toxicology is Paracelsus. According to Paracelsus, each and every substance is toxic if it is not consumed, if it is not taken in right amount. So toxins are depend upon doses. And you can see here some examples how dose makes the poison. Here plant is underwater, it is also toxic. Here plants with right amount of water, and here plant is over water. Underwater is also harmful for this plant, and over water also harmful for this plant. So in this case, water is poisonous for this plant if it is not given in right amount. Similarly, you can see here another examples of fertilizers. Here in normal garden soil, the plants is looking like this, and if we increase the amount of fertilizer slightly, then it will look like this. And if we increase up to a certain limit, up to a certain dose, the plants can grow easily. And after that, it adversely impacts on the plants, and it will reduce its size, and also sometimes it leads to death. So we can clearly understand from here dose how dose makes poison. The dose makes the poison like in apple seed, which contain amygdalin, and in PEARS it contains formaldehyde, and potatoes contain solanine, and in cucurbitacea contain cucurbitacin E. So all these are good for health, but if it is not taken in right amount, it will be harmful for us. Just because the chemical is present, it does not mean that it is harmful in the amount present. Okay, so we have to know about the doses, which is good for us, up to which limit. So the dose makes the poison like an apparently non-toxic chemical can be toxic at high doses, as I have already discussed, and too much of good things can be bad. I hope that I have already discussed about water, and here also sugar. And highly toxic chemicals can be life-saving when given in appropriate doses. Like poisons are not harmful at a sufficient low dose. In a sufficient low dose, poisons are not harmful. But same thing is harmful when it is incorporated in high doses. And there are different terms which are associated with toxicology, like your toxicity. What is toxicity? The adverse effect that a chemical may produce. The chemical at which it produces adverse effect is known as toxicity. And what is dose? Dose is the amount of chemical that gains access to the body, that starts reacting on the body. And there are some other important terms which are used in toxicology are here, like harmful or adverse effect, which are those that are damaging to either the survival or normal function of the individual. And toxicity already I have discussed. And the toxic, this a term related to poisonous or deadly effect on the body by inhalation, ingestion, or absorption. This is the route of exposure or by direct contact with a chemical. And another term toxicant. A toxicant is any chemical that can injure or kill humans, animals, or plants. That is also a poison. And the term toxicant is used when talking about toxic substances that are produced by or are a byproduct of human made activities. Okay, you can see here arsenic is a toxic metal, and other metals also toxic. And toxins. The term toxin usually is used when talking about toxic substances produced by naturally. Toxicant is man-made substances, toxins are natural substances. This is difference between toxicants and toxins. A toxin is any poison or substances of microbial such as bacteria or other teeny plants or animals that is produced from nature, produced from nature, and some that kills the cell, alter growth, development, or kill the organism. Similar toxic symptoms is another term. The term you includes any feeling or sign indicating the presence of poison in the system. Similarly, toxic effects, that is the term that refers to the health effect that occur due to exposure to a toxic substance and also known as a poisonous effect on the body. And another term, selective toxicity. Selective toxicity means that a chemical will produce injury to one kind of living matter without harming another form of life, even though the two may exist close together. That is selective toxicity. It affects one, but at the same time, it does not affect another. And dose is the actual amount of chemical that enters the body. That is the dose. And the dose also received may be due to their either acute, chronic, or subchronic. There are different types of exposure. And individual susceptibility, this term describes the differences in types of responses to hazardous substances. What kind of responses it is found between people. Suppose it is harmful for one, but it is not harmful for another. That is individual susceptibility. How does toxicity develop? Before toxicity can develop, a substance must come into contact with a body surface such as skin, eye, or mucosa of the digestive or respiratory tract. If a substances cannot come in contact with a toxin or toxicant, it will not affect the dose of the chemical or the amount one comes into contact with. It is important when discussing how toxic a substance can be impact. And another one is what is dose response. Dose response is a relationship between exposure and health effect. Suppose we are giving a dose, then it is a little bit effect. If we increase the dose, then the effect may be increase, may be decrease. So that kind of relationship is known as dose response. Then what is threshold dose? Threshold dose, given an idea, the dose response, there should be a dose or exposure level below which the harmful or adverse effect of a substance are not seen in the population. Okay, I will again elaborate this dose response curve and threshold dose in another video. You have to clear about this. So there is a little time to discuss this. So I will discuss once again. What is a sensitive subpopulation? A sensitive subpopulation describes those persons who are more at risk from illness due to exposure to hazardous substances than the average healthy person. That is sensitive. So suppose we are saying this people is very sensitive to this chemical. This organism is very sensitive to this particular thing. Okay, that means it affects adversely or affects immediately. There are some types of toxins are here like toxins are generally from I have already discussed toxins are produced naturally, that means from natural substances. What are these natural substances? These natural substances are plants, animals, bacteria. The toxins which are produced from plants is known as phytotoxins. For example, your furocumarins is found from citrus fruit or carrot, and lectins produced from rosary peas and castor beans, aflatoxins from groundnuts and almonds, and glycoalkaloids from potato. Similarly, the toxins produced from different animal sources is known as zootoxins. For example, venoms of different organisms like venoms of snakes and the toxins which are produced from bacteria is known as bacteriotoxins. For example, diphtheria toxin is from C. diphtheria, exotoxin A from P. aeruginosa, and botulinum toxin from Clostridium botulinum, and tetanus toxin from Clostridium tetani. How toxicity happens? For to happen the toxicity, there are several factors should be there. Otherwise, toxicity will not happen. First of all, right dose, right dose. And another one is exposure. If anything has not come in contact with each other, then toxicity will not happen. And another important point is the individual susceptibility, individual variability, how it affects me, how it affects you. That is depending upon the sensitivity. So you can see here how dose affects the toxicity. Then another point is the route of exposure. By which route, how it exposes to this organism. There are three several routes are there. By I have already discussed inhalation and dermal contact. Another one is your ingestion. Okay, you can see here routes of exposure, how the toxic substances affects us. First, either it comes to our contact through our skin, or through ingestion, or through inhalation. And exposure duration is another important point. How much it is affected, to how much time duration it has been in contact with us. One of the most important consideration in toxicology is the duration and frequency of exposure to a chemical. This is also an important consideration in developing toxicity test. There are basically four types of exposures are there. Exposure durations are there: acute, subacute, subchronic, chronic. It is depending upon the time period. You can see here acute toxicity, which is less than 24-hour exposure, is acute, which is a repeated dose of 1 month is subacute, and repeated dose of 1 to 3 months is your subchronic, and repeated dose of more than 3 months is considered as chronic. And you can see the difference between exposure and hazard. One person is jumping to the water, that is its exposure, it's going to expose. But here a child fall down into the water bodies, it is the hazard. This is the difference between exposure and hazard, and how individual responses can be different. For example, a person taking some drinks, it is not very harmful for him because daily he is taking his drinks. But I could not take drinks because it is individual response. The variety of responses among organisms that get the same dose of chemical is due to individual response susceptibility. Dose and individual susceptibility play roles in all situations involving chemicals, including those making medicines and caffeines. Those taking medicines or caffeines, they some cases they need a high dose, whereas the person who is not taking any kind of caffeines or medicines, low doses also works on him or her. And there are several types of toxic effects also here, like due to the toxicity of arsenic and cyanide, death occur, and organ also damages due to ozone and lead. Mutagenesis occurs due to UV light radiations, and carcinogenesis also occurs due to benzene and asbestos. Teratogenesis occurs thalidomide and thalidomide poisons. And there are several target organ toxicities are there, and not all the organs are affected by a single metal. Targeted organs are affected by a targeted toxic substances. For example, central nervous system affected by the poisoning of lead, immune system affected due to the poisoning of isocyanates, liver affected due to ethanol and acetaminophen, and respiratory tract affected due to tobacco, smoke, and asbestos and ozone, and eye affected due to UV lights, and kidney affected due to metal poison, skin affected due to UV light, gold, and nickel, and reproductive system affected due to dibromochloropropen. Similarly, there are several target organ toxicities are there. Not all the toxins affected all the organs. Some organs are affected by specific chemicals. So, after going through this topic, one can conclude that each and everything is considered a toxic if it is not taken as per its right dose. So, we have to know about the dose. Dose is the important factor. And another thing, 3 points are important for toxicity. That 3 points are: one is your dose, another one is your exposure, another one is your individual susceptibility. So this is all about introduction of toxicology. So we will discuss in detail in further videos. So thank you all for watching this video.